I'm Michael Holly. I'm an architect and currently president of Holly and Smith Architects in Hammond, Louisiana. We have offices in Hammond and in New Orleans, and I work with a great deal of very talented people. So Holly and Smith is not me, it's a whole group of people. You know, becoming a preservationist, I think, is a matter of understanding history. I think everybody's a preservationist, at least those who are involved in understanding what history is all about. History helps us see the future, and as a result, I don't think that everyone just becomes a preservationist. I think that everybody is a preservationist. But for me, in the reality of things, it really started in a realized kind of way when I came to Hammond, Louisiana. Some people call it in my community Hammond, America. We started in a downtown area, we meaning Holly and Smith as a company, as a firm, and it was a pretty raw area at the time. And I'm proud to say that we participated in a process over 40 years that turned Hammond into an incredible downtown, rich with history and rich with culture and spirit. It ultimately became a National Register district and one of the third in the state, I might add, in 1978, and then a downtown development district, and became one of the primary Main Street programs in the country. I like to think it's the poster child for Main Street program nationally. I'm an architect. I was trained at UL Lafayette, graduated in 1974. I have a background in preservation, mostly in rehabilitation and repurposing of old buildings to meet the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. We've taken it so far that we are also, we meaning my partner Jeffrey Smith and I, are owners of historic properties. We're not only architects, we're developers. We own 5 historic properties, and I personally own one on my own in New Orleans. It's a very rich, very deeply seated cultural thing for me to get involved in those things. And so the background has to do with architect on one hand, developer on the other. You know, life is full of pivots. Professionally, I've had some very unique pivots that got me where I am today, starting in high school with some wonderful people who pushed me in a certain direction architecturally, teachers in my educational process at University of Louisiana Lafayette, who really were spirited and gave me a background and a foundation that was very specific, focused, and put me into reality. Then in my professional life, certain friends who gave me opportunities. I have one that in particular that gave me an opportunity to start my own business. I would say just past 40 years last week, and he in effect kicked me out of the nest and gave me this opportunity to do some work, and that's when we started doing the preservation work in downtown Hammond 40 years ago. I'm a generalist in many ways as far as an average day looking at what I do. I collaborate with, not every day, but in general, and over a period of time, 27 different people in an organization in 2 different offices. We have 13 architects, 1 interior designer, and some budding emerging professionals that are more focused on their work than I am, but I help them along and I help them and coach them along as to the best approaches to doing the work that we do. Not all of it is historic. Not all of it is focused in preservation, but a lot of it is. The most recent and most significant that we've done is in New Orleans at the St. Michael Special School, which was a rehabilitation of an 1853 center hall house on Constantinople, I think in Constance. And we did an addition to that building that was for St. Michael Special School, which was a chapel. And it all had to blend together. And it's been recognized by a number of different entities recently. But that kind of work is done by a group of people, not by an individual. It's all focused on collaboration. Our clients are all over the place. We have public clients, we have private clients. We are sometimes our own client. On the public side, we have lots of relationships with public entities at the state level, at the local level. Their school boards, their town councils, their library boards. There are various entities involved in some manner construction or rehabilitation of buildings. On the private side, we work for corporations, we work for private developers, and have done a number of projects for those kinds of entities on a regular basis. And then the final piece is we're our own client. By the way, they're the best clients. They're easier to deal with, and they're easier to make decisions about, and there are never any arguments. So that's why, partially why we got into rehabilitation of historic buildings, not to mention the tax credits and the other advantages you get from dealing with these kinds of things. And I might add, we're particularly proud of the sustainability factor involved in using older buildings and reusing older buildings. You save huge amounts of energy when you do that, and it's recognized by organizations like LEED to take that approach to reusing older buildings for new purposes. The challenges, the biggest challenge I've ever dealt with, both now and in the beginning, is when you work as a group, especially when you work with a group of designers, you're herding cats. And so a lot has to do with keeping everybody focused in the same direction and having systems and processes in place that allow people to be creative, but be creative together. Probably the biggest challenge I've ever had. On the development side, making the money work. If the money doesn't work, the project doesn't work. And it's helped with our understanding of what private clients need and require of our work, because we're sometimes sitting in their shoes and we understand what it is they're faced with. The most rewarding parts, the accomplishments, doing it 40 years and surviving it with all of the challenges that you face on an annual and daily basis, being able to motivate people, getting the recognition that we've gotten. We've been somewhere around 100 awards right now over the 40-year period of recognition of the work that we've done. Much of which has been in the preservation and or repurposing of buildings. First and foremost today, be focused and be technologically aware. There's so much out there in technology today that allows you to speed your development process along so much easier. But at the same time, don't forget about these things, these pencils and pens, and sketch, draw. Be able to draw, be able to capsulize your ideas on a regular basis. I do it in this book, and I've been doing it for years with it, and I have volumes and volumes of them. And it's important that you're able to do that and think quickly about it. The last thing would be committed. Don't jump in halfway. Be there 100%. If you're not, you won't be successful. The biggest success story I can talk about today is a 40-year experience with downtown Hammond. In 1978, I became the first chairman of the Historic District Commission. Quite a bit of challenge in that very beginning stage. I learned really early on that you need to pick your battles. Then the development of the Downtown Development District and all the work that we as a firm have been involved in Hammond, and to see where it is today. Much of which, not all of which I should say, was work that we did, but we did as a community. We actually I wrote a piece, and it's on our news feed in our website, and it's called "It Takes a Village in 40 Years," because there were so many people involved in the process along the way that supported the redevelopment of downtown Hammond, which in 1978 was empty. It was gone. It was urban sprawl had taken over, and today it's where everybody wants to live. It's a thriving community. There are services. There's 225, I believe, apartments in downtown Hammond within the historic district, and it's alive and breathing, and it's just an absolute great little community. Within that area, within the historic district, probably the most significant thing we did was involve ourselves with the saving of the Columbia Theater. The Downtown Development District acquired it when it was on the chopping block to be torn down for the bricks and then turned into a parking lot. And the DDD was able to acquire it. They were able to obtain donations on either side from additional buildings. We were commissioned as the architect. The DDD was able to get state money to renovate it, and it has been a very viable operational facility ever since, after the DDD donated it to Southeastern Louisiana University, and they operate it through their theater department. It has been a roaring success. On the law side, I think the thing that comes to mind more than anything else is the John Desmond branch bank in Ponchatoula, Louisiana. I wasn't involved, but I followed it. There was a beautiful, unique little barrel vaulted building there that was owned by a bank, and they decided to tear it down. And unfortunately, although there were a lot of protests, it got torn down. It just didn't survive. Our business was considered essential, which meant we weren't to shut down, or we didn't have to shut down. But in February of this year, 2020, I went to our tech person internal to our office, and I said, we better be prepared to go remote. And we got ready, and we just were sitting there, and then when March, I think it was 16th, rolled around, we did it. And I think it was a Tuesday, and we all went remote. There were a few people in the office, on both offices in New Orleans and Hammond, and everybody else was working from home. And we had a little rough patch from time to time with things that happen, equipment, technology issues, connections, children, childcare, et cetera, but we survived that. And as a matter of fact, we still have some people remote working even today. It has changed things because we found out we could do it, and it's okay that we can do it. We thought all along, we got to be together, we got to work together. There's a lot of things that happen in a collaborative environment, which is true, and I don't think we could do it 100% all the time. But if there are circumstances, and we have those, where we have health issues with certain employees, and they so choose to work at home, they do. And but we still think it's important that collaboration happen on a spontaneous, face-to-face basis. So it's not been a huge impact. It's been some impact. It's been a different world since. Some things have made our world more efficient because we can Zoom and Microsoft Teams and do all the things that go with that, and we don't have to travel. So that saves us time. So, and everybody's used to it now, so I don't think that's going away. Wow. We've come a long way. When I started in this business, it was all pencil and paper, and hand drawings, and I still do a little bit of that today. But the reality is, we use three-dimensional visualization in Revit. It's called Revit, R-E-V-I-T. It's a software program, and there are add-ons to it that we do where we visualize in 3D, where we can walk people through. We can put an Oculus Quest on them and have them walk through their building before it's even renovated and or built. We use it to estimate. We do it to check sustainability. We can model a building today for the location it is relative to the sun exposure. It'll tell us where our hot and more cold spots are. It'll tell us what kind of energy is going to be used or expended because of exposure. It tells us what we need to do to maybe lessen that in terms of insulation and shading and that sort of thing, and orientation. And then, in essence, technology's become a huge piece of what it is we do.